What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about TV adaptations that I have seen that are adapted from books, but I'm not interested in actually reading the actual book after watching the TV adaptation, because realistically I just feel like I know everything there is to know. So yeah, we'll talk more in detail as I go through the sort of TV shows. I do have to start off by saying I don't actually watch a lot of TV. I am very bad for like watching TV series and sort of getting caught up in everything like other people do. There are so many TV series I have not seen. I'm just genuinely not interested in seeing them. Sometimes, you know, I do follow the hype and watch things that other people are talking about. Other times I'm just like, this is a straight up no from me. But like even for example the Elena Ferrante series, you guys know I love that book. Okay, you know, when I first got my channel I was talking about those books and stuff like that. I had the TV series like downloaded for me. I think I've watched like 4 out of 5 of the episodes. I have not watched the rest, and I think that's primarily one because I know what happens, but also too, seeing it on screen makes it a lot more real, and the show is goddamn sad. So, you know, I don't really want to finish it off, but I suppose I might have to because there's a series 2, might already be out, I don't really know. But yeah, I thought today I would just talk about some of the ones that I have seen. Some are recent, some are not. I would say the 2 of them are definitely like, no, yeah, they're recent-ish, like in the past couple of years. The first one I'm going to talk about is Sharp Objects. The book is by Gillian Flynn. She is the author of Gone Girl. I have read Gone Girl and seen the TV adaptation for that one. So obviously that will not be something that I'm talking about now. I'm not sure where I first heard about Sharp Objects and the sort of American. This one is a mini series. I know it was between my time of moving like from London to Scotland, because I just remember vividly watching it during that time, and also then when I was in one of my classes someone spoke about it and I just read it, so I was like, oh my god, it's actually so good. But yeah, I think because I'm trying to remember if it's, yeah, Gone Girl as a book is actually quite dry. At the beginning of the book, like a huge percentage of the book actually is so boring, and once you get through that boring part, like it really drums up, the interest ramps up, you know, the drama ramps up, and you know, it's actually quite an interesting book. Regard up until a certain point, you're like, what? And I think the film does a better job of that. I still think it carries a bit of that stuff from the book, but it does a much better job of that. But knowing that I'd read the book and I was just a bit like, I suffered, I was like, I'm going to see what this book is about without actually reading it. And I loved Sharp Objects. So Amy Adams is the character in it. I will read you what Sharp Objects is about. So it says here, fresh from a brief stay at a psych hospital, reporter Camilla Preaker faces a troubling assignment. She must return to a tiny hometown to cover the unsolved murder of a preteen girl and the disappearance of another. For years, Camille has hardly spoken to her neurotic hypochondriac mother, or to the half-sister she barely knows, a beautiful 13-year-old girl with an eerie grip on the town. Now installed in an old bedroom in her family's Victorian mansion, Camille finds herself identifying with the young victims a bit too strongly. Dogged by her own demons, she must unravel the psychological puzzle of her own past if she wants to get the story and survive this homecoming. So I didn't really know much about the story like going into it, to be honest. I just watched the TV adaptation just to see where it goes. I thought this production miniseries was so well done. One thing I always really remember about this is the colours, like just all the colours, like in certain aspects of the house it was so dark and muted, but they were just all these greens, but then other aspects where you have sort of the girls in the town and stuff like that, different colours they're wearing. I think whoever did the colour grading did an amazing job. There's just such good lighting and colouring when you go from different scenes, it's amazing. But as a TV show, I thought it was great for filling in the blanks of like what this book was about. So when Camille arrives home, like she's basically thrust into basically her life of what it was like when she was younger. She did, like I read in the blurb, she doesn't know her sister, and her mum is sort of like this adored person in the town, but I think she's very much like there's something wrong with her mum. And there is also a stepdad there who you think is like super creepy, but if you watch it and stuff like that, you'll know for yourself. But I think a lot of it is done to paint him as a very creepy character, and maybe the one pulling all the strings behind this. This show is so cleverly done. When you get to that final episode, you are just like mind blown, because like I said, the creepiness is focused on the dad, the creepiness is focused on the mum, and there is definitely some issues there, but you get to the final episode and you're like, hold up, did we see this coming? I can imagine as a book reveal that is amazing. As a TV show reveal, the way she finds out the doll houses, some teeth, guys, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I thought it was fantastic. fantastic. Like, I actually, just talking about it now makes me want to rewatch it again, because I just thought it was so beautifully done. It has really good like creepy elements, where elements of like mystery, and Camille, our reporter, is like a drunk. She like definitely has suffered from some sort of traumatic childhood. The mum is definitely, I think they do state in the book, as like Munchausen by proxy. I always feel like I say the first bit wrong. And there's definitely been some weird things happening in the childhood. The mum is not quite there, and it definitely rubs off on Camille and how she just like approaches a lot of things. So I think you hear obviously that she was in a psych ward, but she definitely has some issues with alcohol. I will say one thing about this is I remember there was a lot of drinking and driving, and I was just like, I'm sure we're not supposed to be doing that at all. And in one of the scenes, you know, she does like sort of wake up in her car because it's just like, you have drank way too much. But yeah, because I'm not like an expert on, you know, reviewing TV shows, I cannot do it justice in that way. But after seeing the TV show, I was like, there's no way the book is ever going to do better than this. And from what I've read about this in terms of how the book compares to the TV show, it is pretty much, I think, by the book. There might be some embellishments there, but it's not so far off in terms of perhaps like another TV series that I'm going to speak about in a bit. So yeah, definitely one that I've seen the TV show. I'm definitely not going to be picking up the book, especially because my experience with the author's previous book was kind of like, I'm not a huge fan of this. So the next book / TV show I'm going to talk about is You, and the book is by Caroline Kepnes. I simply watched this because everyone was talking about it. I had no idea about it before, and I'm so glad I watched this, honestly. Like, I have no interest in reading the book again. Like, after watching the TV shows, I'm like, what could the book do for me that this TV show has not done already? Like, I am hooked on this. I cannot wait till they release this third season. They released the second one, I'm sure, during like December 2020, I want to say, because it was like, no, was it before? Because I didn't go, it's either the first or the second series they released during like Christmas, like after like Christmas Day, at least in the UK they released it, and I was just like, yes, I'll be watching that. Like, I don't care, there is no seeing your friends and families, I need to watch this show. So let me read you the blurb of the book, of the first one anyway, and I'm not sure how closely these TV series are now following the book, but I will not be like trying to read the blurbs of the other book to ruin what's going to happen for me, because so far what I have watched, I'm like, bravo. So here, it says here, when a beautiful aspiring writer strides into the East Village bookstore where Joe Goldberg works, he does what anyone would do. He Googles the name on her credit card. There is only one Guinevere Beck in New York City. She has a public Facebook account and tweets incessantly, telling Joe everything he needs to know. She's simply Beck to her friends. She went to Brown University, she lives on Bank Street, and she'll be at the bar in Brooklyn tonight. The perfect place for a chance meeting. As Joe invisibly and obsessively takes control of Beck's life, he orchestrates a series of events to ensure Beck finds herself in his waiting arms. Moving from stalker to boyfriend, Joe transforms into Beck's perfect man, all while quietly removing the obstacles that stand in the way, even if it means murder. A terrifying exploration on how vulnerable we are to the stalking and manipulation, debut author Caroline Kepnes, oh, I didn't know this is her debut, delivers a razor-sharp novel for a hyper-connected digital age. So it says here the book was first published in 2014, and I think it was republished with the new cover and the Netflix tie-in in 2018, I'm going to say. I don't know. This was so creepy. It was so creepy in the sense that, like you said, she walks into the bookstore just to buy a book. He works there, he Googles her. But because she's one of those people that leads a very open life, like even to the point where she doesn't draw her curtains, which baffles me because she lives like in a brownstone house and anyone can see in. But more importantly, she can see out, so she just never sees this guy. But like you see here, her Facebook is open. She tweets, like, you know, just has no concern for like her privacy or anything like that. Whatever. So he basically, yeah, makes up a sort of series where he can meet her and they start dating and he transforms into her perfect man. And that's what the first episode is about, but you know, you don't just get to see it from her point of view, you get to see what he's doing. He's out here murdering people. Again, this is another series I think I need to rewatch just so I can relive everything that's happening, because I've now seen the second series, you forget like so much of what happened in the first one. But man was moving mad. Like, you just watch this and you're just like, this is crazy, especially because of the time it's set in. It could happen now. Like, you know, you sit there and think, oh yeah, everyone's really normal. Well, you don't know that. But yeah, so obviously this has a second season, like I said. I think there are actually 3 books in the series currently. It might also just be 3 in total, and she plans to write no more. The second one I thought added a lovely little element to it. I won't spoil what happens at the second one, but you know, it's quite big what happens because it changes the story quite drastically, from being about Beck to being about something else. We get a new host of characters, and actually what happens in the second one is, you know, he goes down this path of obsession again with someone else, and actually there are more characters sort of entangled in this, and actually for him, his justification for everything that he had been doing in the first one was because he wanted Beck, you know, and I think, and he was willing to cross certain lines. But in this second one, we sort of get a sense of his remorse, that he actually kind of is like, I don't actually want to do this anymore, like, you know, I don't want to be doing these things, but now I have to cover up XYZ. Whereas before he was like a bit like, oh, this person's a bitch, so I'm just gonna get rid of her anyway. And in the second one, he like meets this girl, her name is Love. Yes, I remember this because her name is Love and her brother's name is Ace, and it's something to do with tennis. Their parents really love tennis, and I would not have got this if it had not been pointed out on Twitter, because I don't know these things because I don't know anything about tennis. And he meets this girl named Love, and again it sort of ensues down the similar line, except Love is not who you think she is. Like not Dan, calling him Dan, Joe, may have met his match in this, and I just think the TV series is brilliant. You know, it has a good mix of like American, like New York lifestyle, but then there's also this aspect of murder and gore and horror and just these really sick things happening. There is just so much that happens in this that you're just like, what? Because, you know, in certain aspects when he kills people, especially in the second series, he does a really lovely thing for one of the girls who is essentially being preyed on by this sort of prolific paedophile. And I actually think in real life the character actually is also accused of that same sort of similar thing. I could be wrong, but there's a scene with that where, like, you know, it's to do with that Roomba thing that people have that cleans their vacuum thing, and you're just like, this is so weird, creepy and random, but it has a really good blend of just horror and humour and just sort of like Gossip Girl vibes, I want to say, as well. Again, watching that, I'm like, what could the book potentially do for me now that I've seen this brought to life and probably had so many elements added to it. Again, I'm not sure how closely it follows towards the actual book and if it is now veered off from the book, but it's always leaving you on a cliffhanger. And for instance, we've been left on a cliffhanger on the second one. We're sort of seeing this sort of suburban life and you're just sort of like, what's going to happen next? We're obviously going to assume that more murders follow, but I don't want to say what happens between Joe and Love. Ooh, I have just looked at my camera time and I've been talking for ages, so I think I'm just going to talk about one more. And I'm trying to decide between Little Fires Everywhere and Behind Her Eyes. Little Fires Everywhere was the one that I was going to say that I know that actually it has been kind of not dramatically altered from the book, but there are some parts in the book that are definitely not in the film, not in the TV series, I suppose. But I think what I'm going to talk about is Behind Her Eyes, because this is a book I never would have picked up, and actually it is a TV show I wish I didn't even watch. Like, I wanted my time back, and the main premise for this is because it has a supernatural element, and I was just like, if you're going to use a cop out of the supernatural element, I just never would have read it. But it's because I didn't know anything about the show and I didn't know anything about the book. Otherwise I just simply would not have read it, because actually when I read reviews on the Adaptation and the author says about the book, like all the things there are pointing towards like the supernatural bit, but I was just like, I didn't know any of that, so what a waste of my time. But let me tell you about the book. So, Behind Her Eyes is by Sarah Peanaborough, and it's a thriller / mystery. And we'll read here. So it says here, Louise is a single mum, a secretary stuck in a modern day rut. On a rare night out, she meets a man in the bar and sparks fly. Though he leaves after they kiss, she's thrilled she finally connected with someone. When Louise arrives at work on Monday, she meets her new boss David, the man from the bar, the very married man from the bar, who says the kiss was a terrible mistake, but who still can't keep his eyes off Louise. And then Louise bumps into Adele, who's new to town and in need of a friend, but she also happens to be married to David. Dave and Adele look like the picture-perfect husband and wife, but then why is David so controlling and why is Adele so scared of him? As Louise is drawn into David and Adele's orbit, she uncovers more puzzling questions than answers. The only thing that is crystal clear is that something in this marriage is very, very wrong, but Louise can't guess how wrong and how far a person might go to protect their marriage's secret. So for the Netflix adaptation, I think like the episodes were actually like super strong. We have sort of flashbacks to Adele at a time when she's in a psych ward, I want to say, and like she is Scottish, so I don't know what part of Scotland she's from, but she's in there with this other guy who's from I think Glasgow or whatever, and you just see them sort of recounting on their time during there and how they're surviving day to day, and you hear from like Adele and David and how she met him and how much she really loves him and stuff like that, and you get the impression that guy that, you know, she has made friends with, he is really in love with her and is like quite jealous of her and perhaps of David. And in modern day, we get Louise. So I think the adaptations that have been made from the book to the TV show, the quite large one is in the book. Louise is white. In the Netflix adaptation, she's black. And I don't know if she has a son in the book, but in the Netflix adaptation, she has a son. And so yeah, that's, I think, one of the, like, the fact that the character's black is one of the sort of changes in it. And yeah, so she obviously meets him at the bar. It's so funny though, because in the Netflix adaptation, David is meant to be Scottish. When he first started speaking, I thought he was Irish. I was just like, wow. And then later when I found out he was meant to be Scottish, I was like, that doesn't sound right. So yeah, she basically gets involved in their life, and it's one of those TV shows that you watch and you're just like, why can't you mind your own business? Like, why are you so fascinated on this couple and their life? Mind your own business. One thing the show really does do is really good at building up drama and like that sort of suspense. When she is at work, I think that's when you really feel it the most. They work in this David is a psychologist, so he sees patients from all ranges of issues, and I think largely he sees people who are like addicted to drugs or have addiction struggles, and it just feels like the most miserable place they work, but at the same time it just feels very scary. Like, I feel like the drama is very, very heightened in there. And yeah, she sort of bumps into Adele and makes friends with Adele, and Adele sort of, you know, gives her another insight into this marriage. She sees their marriage from the outside, but actually she gets loads of insight from Adele as to what their marriage is like, and more she is drawn to these couples' lives. She is making friends with Adele, and they're going out running, they're going out for coffee and stuff like that, and obviously she's kissed her husband and, you know, they're attracted to each other in that way. And yeah, like it says in the back of it, she gets slowly drawn into their orbit, and things just start happening that aren't really making sense, and you're just like, okay, like how, like Adele knows so much, and you're just like, how does Adele know so much? And in between this, you're getting the flashbacks to when she is in this psych ward, when she comes out of the psych ward, when her friend also comes out of the psych ward and he comes to visit her in her major castle that she has. And when they stay at the house, this is when this first sort of aspect of supernatural comes into it. And I think that aspect was actually fine. It's just when it happens in the rest, I mean, I say fine, it was a bit like, this is nonsense, but okay. But it's just when it then sort of starts to reveal itself throughout the rest of the story that you're just like, this is silly. This is so silly. I just can't explain how much I wish I never watched that show, because the answer for me is it's not an answer, it's a cop-out. Because with the explanation of the element of it being supernatural and whatever they do to like get there, I just feel like, well, anything can happen now, so it's not unbelievable that what we're watching is happening. Anything could potentially happen. So for me, it just really ruined the story. I don't know, I just thought there was going to be a more clever way that Adele knew all the things she knew. And there are layers to this story. There is more than Adele sort of knowing sort of the things that are happening in offices and in different places. And Louise actually goes on a bit of an investigation about them. Like, she sort of, they have moved from somewhere else, which I want to say is like near Brighton, maybe in Brighton. For some reason, her nosy ass self goes to Brighton to go and do more investigation, and she finds out about sort of Louise and David a bit more, sort of like they had to leave, and that's obviously very interesting. You just really get the feeling that Adele is a very sort of, she's a bit cuckoo, like there is no two ways about it. And towards the end, you find out exactly why she is. And you know, when you look back at the rest of the book, you sort of, not the book, the rest of the TV show, you see the glimpses of what has happened. You see why Adele is not really the person that David fell in love with. And you actually see the envy that I discussed earlier about being envious of Adele or David. You sort of see all those things when you look back at it. I just got to the end and I just saw that bit and it was a cop-out. And yeah, I just felt like, Louise, you're so nosy. Like, she is even warned by her friend to like just mind her own business and stay out of their lives. And it's just like, when it happens to her, when whatever happens to her, you're just like, if you had minded your own goddamn business and just lived your life with your child, you would have been fine. But now look at you, now look where you were stuck. And it is quite funny, like where she ends up stuck. But yeah, I guess it really depends on if you like the involvement of supernatural kind of things. I personally am not really here for any of that. Like, it just made the story a complete cop-out for me. The story could have gone anywhere with that, so I'm just like, oh well, whatever. But it was a very intriguing TV show, and I just kept watching it thinking, what is happening? Like, what am I missing here? And of course it was just something that I couldn't fathom, so of course that's why I couldn't figure out the mystery. That is it for my video, and the sort of, I've seen the TV show, I'm not interested in the book, all for various different reasons. So obviously Behind Her Eyes, because I felt the TV show was just the TV show was actually great, but I felt the result was just bad, so I'm definitely not going to be reading that book. Because what can the book do for me? The TV show is so good. The book can't be even comparing to it at all. And Sharp Objects, simply because, yeah, I have read something previously from the author, found it a drag to get through for the majority of it, and then it ended up being okay. But the TV show Sharp Objects is just chef's kiss. Like, it is so good. So yeah, that's definitely one I'm going to be like plugging in to watch for sometime soon. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know if there have been any other sort of TV adaptation that you have watched but you're just not interested in watching the book. I know it's such a common thing these days that actually, you know, loads of things that we watch are actually adapted from books. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV, so this really ever happens for me, but sometimes when it's, especially something like with Behind Her Eyes, when it's in a genre and when it's in a genre that I am not necessarily ever going to read, I am happy to watch a TV adaptation, because I was like, I know I'm never going to pick up that book anyway. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in another one. Bye!